हरि ओम। वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste. Welcome to this 14th and final session of Gita Jayanti celebrations. This will be the last class of Param Vedanta for this calendar year. What an amazing journey it has been. What started as an alternate to actual classes of spiritual study for about 100 of us has expanded and extended our group to this huge family of spiritual seekers we are witnessing today. It's unbelievable that a bunch of learners turned into tools to the learning of others. Students till yesterday became teachers today, and the tiny ripples in pencil streams grew into strong waves of vast ocean to carry the water of Atma Vidya to the shores. Today is a proud moment for Paramavedanta on having successfully completed 3 courses: 8-week course of Introduction to Vedanta, 20-week course of Bhagavad Gita, and finally this 14-week celebration of Gita Jayanti. Many spiritual circles and organizations like Chinmaya Mission, Samskrita Bharati, ISKCON, and others do celebrate Gita Jayanti in their own way. While most of the organizations focus on Gita chanting, Samskrita Bharati focuses throughout the year on learning of Sanskrit, which forms the foundation to learn and understand Gita. Incidentally, I'm happy to share that members of Param Vedanta also attended Samskrita Sambhashana Shibira conducted by them. It is a great honor that all of you participated in this celebration of Gita Jayanti, which involved both chanting and study of Gita wholeheartedly. You have also responded to our call for Brahma Yajna and contributed towards Dakshina to our revered Gurus, and the same is in the process of offering to Pada Kamala of our Gurus. Big thanks to all of you. Today, after studying the final set of 6 shlokas from Purushottama Yoga, Sri Shivakumar will throw light on that famous mantra from Ishavasya Upanishad, Hiranmayena Patrena. The chanting of shlokas from 18th chapter will be done by the couple Srimati Meenakshi and Sri Madhusudan. Now, to introduce us to Purushottama, over to you, Hegde sir.
Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam, Kamsa Chanura Mardhanam, Devaki Paramanandam, Krishnam Vande Jagat Guru. Hari Om friends, we have come to the concluding class of the Gita Jayanti festival, and today we will be studying important verses of the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, also titled as Purushottama Yoga. This chapter is the sum and substance of all Vedanta, particularly the Upanishads, Mundaka, Katva, and Chandogya Upanishad, the 8th chapter. And it is very important that we have recapped the 13th and the 14th chapter to be able to have a nice understanding of the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. The chapter concludes in this way: Yomam eva asammodaha janati purushottama. Krishna wants us to very, very clearly know who this Purushottama is. And as each of our Param Vedanta team is presenting a particular verse, be very sensitive to know who is this Purushottama that Krishna is trying to introduce us to. Venkatesh Prasad will be the opening presentation. Over to you, Venkatesh.
Thank you, sir. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Swami Paramarthanandaji concludes chapter 14 with these words: through bhakti, you would not get liberation. Through bhakti, you get conducive atmosphere for knowledge and conducive personality, and then through knowledge, you attain moksha. We have now come to study chapter 15 called Purushottama Yoga. Here, Purushottama means Nirguna Chaitanyam or attributeless consciousness. And Krishna is going to teach us this Nirguna Brahma Jnana in this chapter. In the very first sloka, he compares samsara to Ashvatta Vriksha, Urdhva Madashakam Ashvattam Prahuravyayam, and elaborates it in his second sloka. In the third shloka, he commands that one has to cut these branches of samsara with a firm mind and the weapon of detachment, asanga shastrena drudena chitva. Then he says in shloka 4 that a goal would be sought after reaching which there is no question of comeback. Yasmin gata na nivartanti bhuyaha. Who will attain this goal? Krishna answers this in fifth shloka, where he declares that one who is free from delusion, nirmana moha, conquered evil of attachment, jita sanga dosha, free from dvandvas, dvandvair vimuktaha, who is committed to spiritual pursuit, adhyatma nitya, and who is wise, amudhaha, attains this goal, gachanti padam avyayam tat. Next slide, sir. After giving the roadmap to this goal, in shloka 6, he describes the destination, which is the abode, Paramapada, Parandhama. Na tad bhasayate suryaha, na shashanko na pavakaha, yad gatva na nivartante, tad dhama paramam mama. Yat, where, Surya, Shashanka, and Pavaka, the sun, the moon, and the fire, na bhasayate, does not illuminate, yat gatva, after reaching which, na nivartante, do not return, tad dhama paramam mama, that is my supreme abode. Friends, please note that Krishna is not talking of any place where sun, moon, etc. do not illuminate, but is explaining the Swarupam of Brahman. Hence, this shloka is called Brahma Lakshana shloka. Throughout Gita, Krishna never tells anything other than what is told in Upanishads. That is why Sri Madhusudana Saraswati in his Dhyana shloka says, Sarvopanishado gavo dogdha gopalanandana. Next slide, sir. This shloka is drawn from a mantra which you are seeing on the screen, appears both in Mundaka and Kathopanishad. Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam, which we studied in our previous class. Here in this mantra, apart from sun, moon, and fire, it considers star and lightning also. It goes on to say that not only all these never shine, but also in fact illuminated by Brahman only. In Vedanta, light is always referred to as knowledge. Even in our daily life, while conversing, we say, please throw light on this topic. And when we understand the topic, we say, oh, I am enlightened. Here, light is knowledge. Process of understanding is the journey. So anything that destroys ajnana, wrong notion, misunderstanding, and leads to gnana is nothing but light. That anything is a tool and is called pramana. Anything that is known to pramana is prameya. In the same way, every sense organ is light or pramana. Next slide, sir. Eyes throw light on objects, ears throw light on sound, nose give light to smell, and tongue illuminates taste. Swami Anubhavanandaji, in his talk on Viveka Chudamani, explains all these sense organs are known by the mind is known by the intellect, and the intellect is illuminated by the pure consciousness. Exactly in the same way, friends, the moon, the sun, stars, fire, lightning, etc. are all illuminated by that Paramatma alone and not the other way around. The journey to that Parandhama is not physical but intellectual. It's an inward journey. Intellectual journey means not reaching but attaining or knowing. It's not traveling far but going deep within. It's not movement but enlightenment. Movement has a return ticket, while the enlightenment has neither movement nor return journey. Going to higher lokas is temporary, but attaining moksha, Paramapada, is permanent. This is what Krishna is trying to say in this shloka. Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you, Venkatesh, for a very nice beginning with a nice explanation of the opening verses and a relatively detailed explanation of this particular verse, which concludes with Yat Gatva Na Nivartante Tad Dhama Paramam Mama, and which you have put in this slide as Param Dhama, the ultimate abode. And what is the ultimate abode? This chapter is all about Purushottama. We are here to understand who this Purushottama is. As you explained, it is not an external journey to any other place, to any other abode. But once you understand who this Purushottama is, Yat Gatva once you understand, na nivartante, there is no falling back. And that is the great, great blessing of Brahma Vidya. Raksha, will you explain the next verse, please, Dr. Raksha?
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Verse 9. Shrotram chakshuhu sparshanam cha rasanam granameva cha adhisthaya manaschayam vishayanupasevate. The body becomes sentient on account of the reflected consciousness, also called Chidabhasa. At the time of death, Jiva carries along with it all the sense organs and the mind, just as the wind moves with the fragrance of the flower. Vayur Gandhan Iva, as in the previous verse, verse 8. This invisible reflected consciousness carries the entire Sukshma Shariram, which includes the Pancha Jnanendriyas, Pancha Karmendriyas, Pancha Prana, Manas, and Buddhi. When the Jiva goes to another human body, the sense organs are placed in their respective slots. Like the Chakshurendriyam is placed in the Chakshu Golakam. Golakam is the physical or the visible part, and Indriyam is the invisible part. Shrotru, Chakshuhu, Sparshanam, Rasanam, and Grana. The 5 sensory parts or the invisible parts of hearing, sight, touch, taste, and smell all are placed in their respective golakams. Adhishtaya manaha, the sense organs are backed by the mind. According to the Shastra, Hridayam is the location of the mind, not the brain. Hridayam is the golakam for the indriyam called mind. Bhagavan Ramana in Ekashloki has said, Hridaya kuhara madhye kevalam brahmamatram. The center of the heart is the place of the absolute consciousness. Jivatma migrates from one body to another and enjoys the objects of senses while dwelling in that body, Vishayanupasevate. The experience of pain and pleasure is because of Chidabhasa. A dead body can neither experience pain nor pleasure. The experience reveals the presence of life. This verse reveals the presence of Brahman, which is Chit, the all-pervading consciousness. Hari Om, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Raksha, for a nice explanation of this particular verse. To understand this verse clearly requires a certain fundamentals of Vedanta, which Krishna has assumed, which is not really explained in the Bhagavad Gita. That is why we need a background of Tattva Bodha or any other Prakarana Grantha. As part of our study program, while we are studying the Upanishads next year, we will have an insight into some of these topics, and we also parallelly plan to study Viveka Chudamani, where many of these topics will be elaborated in greater detail, because if these fundamentals of our gross body, our subtle body, what happens when a person dies? This is what was explained by Dr. Raksha. When a person dies, all that dies is only the gross body. The subtle body, which is essentially the mind, which is like the SIM card which is separated from a mobile telephone, carrying all the past data, carrying all the past impressions, moves. It is that which travels, carrying our past data from one life to another. And that is the Vedantic understanding of what happens when a person dies. Dr. Sundar, please.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Lord Krishna started this chapter with an elaborate description of samsara. As we see in this next slide, he presented to us the doshas, the defects in samsara. He does this with an intention of making us seekers aware of samsara, and also so that we put a sincere effort to permanently get rid of this problem of samsara. Out of compassion, he then offers a 4-point program for removal of samsara or samsara nivritti upaya. As seen in the slide, 3 of the 4-point programs labeled in blue form the secondary or supportive sadhanas, and Parimargitavyam was the primary or the fundamental sadhana for removal of problem of samsara. And then over 9 verses in the middle portion of this chapter, Lord Krishna elaborates this primary sadhana as a means for samsara nivritti. For this purpose, he adopts a unique prakriya or methodology in this chapter. So let us dwell on this. Lord Krishna now teaches us that everything in this manifest creation is his higher rupam or Brahman. As we see in this next slide, the Paribhasha Shabda, or the technical term for this, is Brahman Sarvatmakatvam. Lord Krishna is teaching us that everything is Brahman. That everything in these verses, he divides into 2 portions and says, Brahman alone appears as Jiva, Brahman alone appears as Jagat. In the verses 7 to 11, from this information, through Nididhyasanam, he is leading us to Brahman. All experiences of the Jiva are due to the blessing of the original consciousness or Chaitanyam. Therefore, in all the experiences of Sthula Shukshma Sharira, can I infer Brahman? Can I revise my perspective from the Shariras which are Jada to Brahman, which is the only Chaitanya Tattvam? That was the principle. And now in this verses from 12 to 15, having said Brahman alone appears as Jagat, Lord Krishna is taking a position to tell us that all the glories of Jagat should reveal vividly Brahman to us in our day-to-day experiences. The word Parimarganam stands for Vedanta Vichara, Atma Vichara, or self-inquiry. It comprises of Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasanam, but primarily Lord Krishna is focusing on Nididhyasanam. Let us see more details in the next slide. So in these 2 fundamental verses in the 7th chapter, Lord Krishna taught us that Maya, the Shakti which is rooted upon Brahman, in a 2-staged manner comes about to form this entire pluralistic manifestation. So Lord Krishna is teaching us Brahman being the cause of everything, Brahman alone has to be everything. And in fact, there is no effect separate from the cause. So he is asking us to meditate upon the cause whenever we vividly see the effect. And to this effect, he is taking 3 examples in the manifest creation as glories for us to manifest, lead from the effect to the cause. Yada dityagatam tejah jagadbhasayate khilam yachandramasi yachagnav tattejo viddhi mamakam. So Lord Krishna is saying here that light, that power, the energy which belongs to Surya, Chandra and Agni. May you know, O Arjuna, that it all is belonging to me as the cause of all these effects, as Brahman. As we see in this next slide, in the next 2 verses, which also includes the famous Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva shloka, Lord Krishna elaborates on the effect, on the function of each of these Shaktis, that Surya Bhagavan nourishes animal kingdom, Chandra Shakti nourishes plant kingdom, and Agni, which is specifically representative of Antara Agni, Jatara Agni or Vaishvanaro Agni, helps in assimilation of food. So what he's telling us is whenever you see the effect in the animal kingdom, in the plant kingdom, with regards to the food being digested, can you infer the cause for all this, which is Brahman? In this next culminating slide, let us try to summarize and see how this chapter or this prakriya is about Nididhyasanam. As Jiva being a manifestation of Brahman, Lord Krishna is asking, in each experience of Jiva, can you infer me the blessing Chaitanyam? Can you revise the perspective from body-mind complex to Atma? And with regards to Jagat, he is asking us, in each glory of Jagat, can you infer me the cause, the substratum? In each effect, can you meditate on the cause? In each manifest glory, can you revise the perspective from the effect, this Jagat, to the cause Brahman. Now in the remaining chapter, part of the chapter, he is going to expand this everything further. Till now he included only manifest creation. Now he is going to include even the unmanifest creation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sundar. Always a delight to listen to you, the way you are able to explain. Those who are able to have a glimpse of the Upanishads are able to see how much of the Upanishads have been packed into this 15th chapter. And as nicely explained, there are 4 important aspects that are there in this chapter. One is the preparatory tool or Vairagya. If you want to know who's Purushottama, you should have Vairagya, as brought out in Asanga Shastrena Dridena Chitva. The other is Sadguna, Nirmana Moha. Unless we have values, you will not be able to infer who this Purushottama is. The next is to be able to see Brahman everywhere. And finally, through Vedanta Vichara. As Sundar explained in the next slide, Brahman is now seen in 2 aspects. To be able to discover Brahman in myself and to be able to see Brahman in the world outside. When you're able to see Purushottama, if I can use the word, in the world outside, it is this whole world as existence is Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam, is Purushottama. To be able to see Brahman as consciousness within is another aspect, or the Chit aspect. So there is Chit within, Sat outside, and this is how it is very beautifully brought out in a very, very compact way in the most wonderful 20 verses of this particular chapter. Jyoti, if you can explain the next verse for us, please.
Yes, sir. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So the first slide, sir. Dvavimau purusho loke sharascha shara evacha shara sarvani bhutani kutastho shara uchyate. After revealing his Sarva Atmaka Tattvam, verse 16 to 18 define Purushottama, and the name of this chapter, Purushottama Yoga, is given from this verse, from these 3 verses itself. Commencing the verse, Dva Vimau Purusho Loke Sharascha Eva Shara Eva Cha. Swami Paramananda Ji says, to reveal the the Purushottama, Sri Krishna classifies the universe into 3. The first being Shara Purusha, the visible, tangible, perceptible to the sense organs, the manifest matter, which is made up of 5 elements referred in this context as Prakriti Tattvam. The second classification being Akshara Purusha, the invisible, intangible, unmanifest matter, experiencer of the changing world that cannot be totally destroyed even during Pralayam, as per law of conservation. Here the Akshara Purusha is an exceptional reference to Maya. The third being Uttama Purusha, the consciousness principle that lends existence, the Chetana Tattvam. The next slide, sir. Comparative study shows that manifest and unmanifest matter have many similarities. Both are matter and are inert, or Chetan. Purushottama is Chetan. Both Shara and Akshara are material, being material, have attributes and gunas, hence Saguna. This is attributeless. Purushottama is attributeless and Nirgunam. Both Shara and Akshara are subject to modification constantly. Example, creation and dissolution. Matter and energy is interconvertible. Hence, it is Savikaram. Purushottam is Nirvikaram. Shara and Akshara is divisible. Hence, Savikalpam. Purushottama is indivisible. Hence, Savikalpam. Both Shara and Akshara do not have an independent existence. Therefore, both are Mithya. Whereas Purushottama is independence. Therefore, it is Satyam alone. Thus, of all the 3, the third Purusha, the Uttam Purusha, lends existence to both the first Shara and Akshara, and he is the Sarva Adharam, Purnam, claiming himself as Purushottama. Here, Dvavimau is only one Purusha, the absolute reality alone, being common in both, expressing as 2 because of Upadhi, the world and the experiencer of the world. Coming to the second line, Akshara Purusha Sarvani Bhutani is the ever-changing world of the physical, subtle, and the causal bodies. Akshara Kutastha Akshara Kutastha Akshara Uchyate is the immutable consciousness principle. In this context, it is Maya. To illustrate this, the ocean wave and water example is given. The ocean wave is equal to water plus its own potentiality to express as totality. Ocean has tides, floods, tsunami, waves are born and die. So this is the changing principle. Whereas water is the supporting principle that is steady. In this coexistence of ocean and wave, there is cause and effect. But for water, there is no cause, there is no effect. Similarly, the absolute consciousness existence plus its own potentiality, that is Maya, is equal to the world of the conditioned absolute reality. Thus, the absolute reality is immanent in and throughout the world and transcendental. Hari Om, sir.
Thank you, Jyoti, for explaining a very difficult verse. The difficulty comes from Krishna's freely use of terms which is not traditionally accepted. Now, Purusha normally means a conscious principle, but now he's using Purusha for everything. And that is why this particular verse requires a lot of commentary from great masters to be able to decipher what Krishna is exactly meaning. Kshara Purusha is whatever I see, which perishable, which can be destroyed. Akshara, that cannot be destroyed because it is unmanifest. Here we have to understand it as Maya. And there Krishna introduces the third Purusha, which he calls Uttama Purusha, which will be Dr. Jagdish, please.
Hari Om, Gurubhyo Namaha. This rather short chapter of 20 shlokas is dedicated to Purushottama, the Supreme Self. In today's presentations, we have learned Brahman, the Supreme State, the Supreme Abode, is not illumined by sun or moon, but being the consciousness of the entire cosmos, is the self-effulgent light, and that illumines the sun and the moon. And also, in this world exists perishable mortals and the imperishable immortals. But distinct from both these and higher than the highest deities is the Supreme Atma at the utmost level, the I in capitals, Purushottama. So far in this chapter, Krishna has detailed his opulent magnificence. And in this shloka, he calls himself Purushottama. Let us see how and why. Going by the shloka, Yasmat Akshara Matitoham Aksharaadapi Chottamaha Atosmi Loke Vedecha Pratitaha Purushottamaha. Next slide, sir. Now the Padartha would go something like this. Yasmat Ksharam Atitaha Aham. Just as Ksharam, the perishable, is transcended by I, Aham, Aksharam Apicha Uttamaha. The imperishable Aksharam also, and Uttamaha, even the best, Ataha Asmi Loke Vedecha. These are also transcended. Therefore, I am in the world and in Veda called as Pratitaha Purushottama, declared as the highest Purusha. There are three keywords highlighted in this slide. Kshara, the perishable beings of this material world. Akshara, the liberated beings who live in the abode of God, Devaloka. Purushottama, the supreme divine personality. Swami Param says, Kshara is matter and Akshara is matter again, but unmanifest, which we call energy. But much superior to both is the consciousness, which is the principle. Next slide, sir. No, sir, previous. Now, shown in this slide, the Kshara man on the left side, he attains Akshara in the Devaloka, like the angels, and he becomes an angel himself. The Ashwatha tree on the right side is Kshara, it is Maya, it is perishable in the earth. but its seed is self-perpetuating. Let's call it Akshara. And then again, the electric bulb is Kshara, but the electricity is Akshara. But the Purushottama sitting right on top, Krishna, which is Go, the Purushottama is well beyond all this. Similarly, it is a delusion which makes a man think he is made of earth and other elements, and so he is perishable. Till he cuts that knot of duality and realizes that I is the one which is pervading all, he will not be able to attain moksha. Now, similar views are expressed in Chandogya Upanishad about the total identification with the Supreme, and in Vishnu Purana also, where Krishna, the Supreme Person, is without beginning, middle, or end. Next slide, sir. Next slide, sir. Now, this is a summary slide in which I would say Krishna has used himself in this sloka as a metaphor. Don't look at my Kshara body, he seems to say. Krishna is no more the Balagopala stealing milk and curds. He is no longer the Sakha among the gopis, and not even the charioteer as well as the Saguna Krishna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. But Arjuna, perceive the consciousness principle behind the Krishna Sharira. He is the Nirguna Krishna, the Chaitanya Swarupa or Purushottama or the primordial Om. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. That was a very nice explanation to see who is this Purushottama, because otherwise it is easily misunderstood by a normal interpretation of this particular verse. Dr. Srinivas Nuti, over to you, Dr. Srinivas.
Thank you, sir. This is the concluding verse of the 15th chapter. The verse is like this. Iti guhyatamam shastram idamuktam mayanagha etad buddhva buddhiman syat krutakrutyascha bharata. Let us see the meaning of each word. The first word is iti. Iti means thus. Generally, whenever this in Sanskrit literature, the word iti is used while concluding the subject. Ataha is used in the beginning of the subject. But we know that this is only the last verse in the 15th chapter, and there are 3 more chapters in Bhagavad Gita. That means the main content has been told by Bhagavan. In the next 3 chapters, Bhagavan explains some more topics which he could not tell earlier. The next word is guhyatamam. Guhyatamam means gopaniyaha, or secret. Something which has to be protected and well guarded. Not that it should not be told to everybody or anybody, but it should be told only to an adhikari, a person who is eligible for it. Otherwise, if it is told to some pseudo-intellectual, there is every chance that it may be misinterpreted. So the next word is Shastram idam uktam. This word can be split into 3 words. Shastram idam uktam. Shastra means commandment. This is not a correct translation, but there is no other word in English to use for this. That's why we are using this commandment word. Shastram means Shashanat, Samshanat iti Shastram. Shashanat means to order and tell, that which has to be done and which should not be done. So in Bhagavad Gita, there are many statements which order, like Klaibhyam Masmagamah Partha, Mamekam Sharanam Braja. These are all ordering statements. So this is what is Shasanam. That is to order. Shamshanat. Shamshanat means to recommend. So that which is recommended. So that means here the Atma Jnanam, which is a secret knowledge, has been told by the Bhagavan. So idam uktam. Idam uktam means, idam means this. Uktam means told. That means this has been told. The next word is Maya Nagha. This can be split into 2 words, Maya plus Anagha. Anagha means sinful one. Agha means sinful one. Anagha means sinless one. Maya means by me. So here this is what is called as Karmani Prayogam. So in Sanskrit there is Kartari, Karmani and Bhave Prayogam. 3 types of sentences are there. So it has been told by me. This is a karmani prayogam. Instead of I told this, that will be a kartari prayogam. It has been told by me. This is the karmani prayogam. So next word is etat buddha. This can be split into two words. Etat plus buddha. Etat means this. Tat means that, and etat means this. Buddha means on knowing this. Buddhiman syat. Here we should note that syat means to become. Instead of telling buddhiman bhavasi, here here they are telling buddhiman syat. So here there is a shift from second person to third person. So that means anybody who can listen and understand to this shastra, he can become buddhiman. That means it is not only applicable to Arjuna, but to everybody. So next word is kruta krutyascha. This word can be split into three words. Kruta, krutyaha plus cha. So krutyam means something which has to be done. Krutam means which has been done. Cha means and. So that means a person has done what he is expected to do. Bharata means oh Bharata, that is addressing. Next slide, sir. So let us see the Anvaya of this. The first line is can be rewritten like this. Anagha maya idam guhyatamam shastram iti uktam. That means thus the most secret science has been taught by me. The next line is Bharata etat buddha buddhiman kruta krutyaha cha syat. That means, oh Bharata, on knowing this, the person becomes wise and all his duties are accomplished. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Srinivas. As always, we enjoy listening to you, the way you are able to dissect the words and make the meaning of each word imprinted on our mind as clearly as possible. You focus on the word iti. Iti means in conclusion. So that is why I always feel that the 15th chapter is the climax, the Gauri Shankar of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna has told the greatest secret. Why is it the secret? Because it is so sacred. It requires a certain amount of prepared mind to be able to understand this very subtle teaching. So Krishna is giving something very precious, but to be able to relish this, we need to go through a certain amount of preparation to be able to have this understanding and to make full benefit of this great understanding. And that is what the glory of the whole Bhagavad Gita is, that we are able to krita kritasya, to get to be fully, to attain to one's fulfillment is possible through the study of this Moksha Shastra, the Bhagavad Gita. It is our practice during this Gita festival, to this Gita Jayanti festival, that at the conclusion of each class, we have one important prayer. And today we will have a very important prayer. Shiv Kumar, if you can explain this prayer to us.
Hey Gurubhyo Namaha. This verse, this mantra is normally commonly chanted before Surya Namaskara. Hiranmayena patrena satyasyapi hitam mukam tatvam pushan abhavrana satya dharmaya drishtaye. The four mantras from 15 onwards in Ishavasya are prayers of a Agnani. But who is a Nishkama Karma Upasana Samuchaya Upasaka, striving for Gnana Prapti and Moksha Prapti. On the face of it, this is a prayer to Lord Sun, invoking his grace and blessing so that the seeker may have the strength to remove the golden veil that hides the vision of truth. And this is the prayer of the dying personality on his or her deathbed. Next slide, sir. A short story. A shopkeeper storing bags of provisions to keep rodents away sprinkles puffed rice outside on the way. The rodents eat this puffed rice and go back without consuming, without coming anywhere near the bags of provision. In this verse, sun's golden disk, Hiranmaya Patram, figuratively represents the puffed rice. The Upasaka on his path to Gnanam, finding these material distractions, desires, objects, moha, maya, lust, etc., on the path of truth, in this mithya world, which are easily reachable, extremely desirable, highly tempting, but temporary, are overpowering and blocking his passage to drishti, that is Brahma Gnanam or truth. He prays to the Lord, Pusham Tattvam Aphavrana, O Son, please remove all these obstacles and show me Satyasya Mukham, the gateway to Satyam, as I am Satya Dharmaya Drishtaye, on the path of Satya and Dharma for gaining Gnanam. Swami Paramarthananda also gives us the other interpretation given by Sri Adi Shankaracharya, and also mentions that Adi Shankaracharya studies the previous and later verses, and accordingly the interpretation is that the Upasaka, having practiced Nishkama Karma Upasana Samuchaya, desirous of Gnanam and Moksha in this Janma itself, but unable to realize it in spite of deep desire due to some obstacle or the other, now at the fag end of his life, he makes a special prayer for another type of mukti, which is promised in the Shastra called Shuklagati. I will not elaborate Shuklagati, as we have all studied this in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Akshara Brahma Yoga. Here, the Upasaka is supposed to pass through the solar disk to go to Brahmaloka. In Brahmaloka, he will get an opportunity to gain Atma Gnanam. There, he will become a Jivan Mukta, and at the time of Pralaya, along with Brahmaji, he will also attain Videha Mukti. Next slide, sir. Swami Chinmayananda further explains Bhagavad Pada Adi Shankara's interpretation. He says it is certainly the last prayer of the dying individual, but the individual meant here is the ego center. We are not to understand that it is literally the prayer of a dying old man on his deathbed, but a last prayer of the Upasaka in Nididhyasanam, when he, in his divine effort, is shaking off his last traces of ego, which is lingering, covering the self or Atma in him. The prayer in Vedanta is only an attempt on the ego center to attune itself to the supreme consciousness in the individual. Pushan, the nourisher, the sustainer, Surya Devata. The ego center is to die when it realizes its real nature, the self. Satya Dharmaya Drishtaye. The seeker demands the Lord to unveil, as he declares that the truth should reveal itself unto him, for he is himself a practitioner of truth on the path of Satya and Dharma. The Upanishad is trying to say that the ultimately, the most important truth is within. Hari Om, sir.
Thank you, Shiv Kumar, for a nice explanation of this beautiful mantra from the Ishavasya Upanishad. Those of you who have attended this Gita Jayanti sessions, you will see the prayers that we have selected are largely from the Upanishads. And therefore, even before we come into the Upanishad class, you have had a taste of some of the beautiful Shanti Patas and the beautiful mantras from the Upanishads, which we regularly use for prayers like Na Tatra Suryo Bhati, Na Chandra Tarakam. And this particular prayer, which I will certainly recommend as both a morning prayer and an evening prayer. Those who do yoga regularly, this is a Surya Namaskara prayer where you Hiranmayena Patrena, you make a reference, a prayer to the rising sun. The Ishavasya Upanishad, and this is a very exception in all the Upanishads where you have a kind of a Saguna prayer. From this verse, 16, 17, 18, 19, so 17, 18, 19, 20, the last concluding verses of this chapter, I'm sorry, it's only the 15, 16, 17, 18, 4 verses, are a prayer of a person on the deathbed. Basmantam Shariram. Now the words go like this, which means every morning is my birth, every evening I prepare to die. And if you really want, somebody has said so nicely, show me a man at his death and I will tell you how he has lived. If spiritual inputs have touched us, when it comes to the evening of our life, when Yamadharmaraja has given us our notice, then we are not worried about having to relinquish this body. And one of those prayers which help us to easily detach from this body is this beautiful set of 15 to 18 from the Ishavasya Upanishad, which I would strongly represent, which I would suggest is an evening prayer at the time of the setting sun, where every evening we mentally surrender or get ready to surrender our body. With that, we come to the conclusion, and I would like to give a little concluding word on the same Purushottama. The 13th, 14th, and the 15th chapter are all Jnana Yoga parts of the Bhagavad Gita. And in the 13th and the 14th chapter, the two fundamental principles of Vedanta, which Swami Paramarthananda wants us to be very clear about, is brought out. First, in the 13th chapter is, I am other than whatever I see. I am the Kshetrajna, and whatever I see is the Kshetra. And this is the first fundamental principle of Vedanta. In the 14th chapter, we understood that all attributes that I can see and experience belong to the object of experience, not to me, the subject. I am guna tita, I am free from all gunas, and therefore I as Atma, I am nirguna. With these two in background, let us see what is Purushottama. Again, as I said, Yomam eva asammodaha janati Purushottama. Who is this Purushottama? The verse which Dr. Jagdish described, we will see. This Purushottama comes after 13th, 14th, and 15th chapter. Purushottama is not a new term. In the 13th chapter, we have seen Krishna refer to Purusha is as equivalent to the Purushottama. He made a Prakriti Purusha difference. And whatever he spoke about Purusha is the same as the Purushottama in the 15th chapter. In the 13th chapter, Krishna gave a lot of importance to the term Gneyam. Gneyam means that which is worth knowing. In the Upanishad, they also call it Paravidya. Does it, Aparavidya is useless? Aparavidya is like medical knowledge, engineering knowledge, economics. Of course, it is useful to live successfully in the world, but after some time you will see it does not take you to total fulfillment. From Aparavidya, you have to move to Paravidya, and that Paravidya, the knowledge of the self, is Gneyam, and Gneyam is also Purushottama. In the 13th chapter, what we heard is Kshetrajna is also Purushottama. 14th chapter, what we described as Gunatita is the same as Purushottama. In the 12th chapter, we saw it as the Parabhakta, the highest Bhakta, which is very similar to the Sthita Prajna of the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. In this particular verse, which was described by Dr. Jagdish, where this was described by Jyoti, there is Kshara and Akshara. But there is something beyond Kshara and Akshara. This is the third. This is the real one. Who is the Adhara? Who is the support of both? Just like water is the support of both the waves and the ocean. Who is that Uttama Purusha? The verse which was explained by Dr. Jagdish is this, Atosmin loke vede cha pratitaha purushottama. In this verse, it seems that Krishna declares that in all the worlds and in the Vedas, I am the Purushottama. This is the direct meaning. Of course, Dr. Jagdish and others and all our teachers have explained the symbolic meaning. Is Krishna talking about his body, Ekarupa? Is he talking about Anekarupa? Or is he talking about Arupa? The final concluding verse of the Bhagavad Gita in the 18th chapter, verse 66 goes like this. Sarva dharman api parityagya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Surrender to the one. The one is the Akhanda Brahma, the indivisible one. And let us evaluate what is that Brahman, which is now we will talk as Purushottama. we are approaching the new year, and it is around the new year time that we make certain resolutions. And if there is some resolution that I would like all of us to do, including myself, is to be able to chant this particular mantra every morning, because it is, as Adi Shankara himself said, it is a tremendously powerful mantra. In the Viveka Chudamani, he said there are three things extremely difficult to get: Manushyattvam, Mumukshutvam. These two things we have. To get a Mahapurusha, to be able to get a person who's able to instruct to you who is this Purushottama within you, requires certain sadhana. And one of the sadhanas which I can verify from my own experience as true is just by chanting this particular mantra. I had spoken about that beautiful mantra some time ago, Nidityasanan mantra, Asangoham, Asangoham, Asangoham Punah Punah. Similar to that is this mantra, which we need to chant every morning with meaning. If you don't know the meaning also, it is okay. Pratasmarami hriditam spuradatma tattvam. Early in the morning, I recollect that I am not this body mind, but I am the Atma which emerges from me, which is of the nature of Satchit Sukham Paramahansa Gatim. That means the highest seekers look for Tad Brahma Aham. I am that Brahman, Nishkalam, that cannot be divided, but I am not Bhuta Sangaha. I am not a combination of all these elements. For me, particularly, it is very relevant in front of an image of Lord Subramanya. Lord Subramanya is representative to me of Brahma Vidya Acharya. In the Chandogya Upanishad, Narada goes to his older brother, Sanat Kumara. And Sanat Kumara is supposed to be an avatara of Subramanyam. Subramanya represents Brahma Vidya to me. And chant this mantra wherever, if possible, in front of an image of Subramanyam. In this particular verse, the last verse goes like this: Pratar namami tamasa param arka varnam. Early in the morning, I meditate on that Atma Tattva, which is tamasaha param, which is beyond darkness. It is able to illumine darkness. Light can never illumine darkness, because the moment light comes in, darkness disappears. But this consciousness of mine is able to illumine my ignorance. It is able to illumine my knowledge. That is the meaning of tamasaha param. And the same words continue, that it is purnam, sanatana padam, and Purushottama. So I looked for this particular verse to say, early in the morning, I remind myself that I am that Uttama Purusha or Purushottama. This is a secret. This is not an ordinary secret. This is the greatest secret ever. And this secret can be understood through a certain prepared mind. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there is a discussion between Maitreyi and her former husband. Former husband, I will say, because when he takes sannyas, he relinquishes his married life. And now they are in an ashram together as master and student, and she asks him a lot of difficult questions. And one of the questions, one of the discussions were, Yajnavalika asks her, whom do you love most? Who do you love the most? And the answer comes, Atmanastu Kamaya Sarvam Priyam Bhavati. All of us love ourselves the most because we love someone who is a source of joy. So many people, objects, situations, we interact and then we let go because it is no longer a source of joy. But one thing we never let go is ourselves, because we are a perennial source of joy, which we are not able to identify. That is the Ananda Tattvam, Satchit Ananda or Anantatva Tattvam within us, which is Purushottama. Nisargadatta Maharaj had written a book, I Am That. That again refers to Purushottama. Swami Paramarthananda has broken up these words, I representing consciousness or Chit, Am representing existence. The whole of Vedanta is to understand what is this consciousness within me, what is this existence outside. And there is a phrase which Swami Paramarthananda ji has said, I am that non-material consciousness which enlivens and makes this body alive. I am that non-material existence which gives existence to this whole world. Because of me, this world is existent. And because of me as Atma or Brahman, my body is alive and sentient. And this is a certain Mahavakya of Vedanta. Sometimes I find Ramana's verses most simple, most direct. And this is from the Upadesha Sara, verse 23, which goes like this: Sattva Basika Chitva Vetara Sattaya Hi Chit Chittaya I Aham. We cannot have two different things. Where is that Sat separate from Chit? Then he declares that Sat is Chit, Chit is Sat, and both Sat Chit is I or Aham. One of the nice examples Swami Anubhavananda given has helped me to understand what is this Sat and Chit. He says, whenever Sat and Chit are together, you experience Purnatvam, you experience limitlessness. Whenever Sat and Chit become separated, then you have a sense of limitation, because now there is a seeming separation. I am Chit, I am consciousness, and I see existence as apart from me. This happens when we are fast asleep, we are Purna, we experience no limit, no limitations, we experience Ananda or Anantatvam. The moment we wake up, the mind wakes up, and the mind makes a separation between me, the consciousness, and the not me existence. And as long as there is something as anatma or not me, then the world tends to persecute me. The world becomes an object of fear, an object of desire, and all samsara begins. The whole thing is how to resolve the two together. What we do in, like for instance, Vishayananda. Vishayananda is an object that I love. For instance, a person who loves sweets sees a gulab jamun. The gulab jamun is outside of him, and that is existence. The consciousness is here. Purnatvam comes when the moment that gulab jamun lands in the tongue and you close your eyes and experience the chit and the sat have become together. But what do we do in Brahma Vidya? Brahma Vidya, we need to understand that the Sat outside and the Chit inside me are not two separate things. Very clearly described in Mandukya Upanishad, where it divides us into waking, dream, and deep sleep. In waking, when I wake up, I experience myself as Vishwa and the whole world as Virat. But these are two seeming separation. They are only seemingly separate. They are not apart from each other. In the dream, I see myself as a dreamer and the world around me as Hiranyagarbha. But I know the dreamer is me, the dream world is also me. And Vedantic wisdom is to be able to resolve this whole world as myself. There are so many enlightened masters who have described their enlightenment. And the moment of enlightenment, something happens, the distinction between me and not me becomes blurred. And through cognitive understanding, I see the world as apart from me, but I know that the world is only an extension of me. And that understanding is brought out in the Ishavasya Upanishad. First verse says, Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kinchit jagatyam jagat. The whole world is nothing other than Isha or Lord himself. Now, until now, we have said that the world is anatma or mithya, but from a Vedantic angle, the world now becomes satya when it is Isha Vasyam. So it may seem a little bit of contradiction, but if you see, there is no contradiction, it is only a seeming contradiction. With this background, let us have a little story to meditate on. And this will be my concluding story as we are concluding this whole Gita Jayanti exercise. This whole exercise came on so suddenly, and I would like to particularly thank my team of Param Vedanta who has stepped in at short notice, given their very best. And whatever we have today is thanks to some of the members of the team are here. And the scene that you are seeing is at the north face of Kailash, at Berapuk. The day that we went there was extremely cold. The weather was very bad. You are not able to see the glorious Kailash in the background. You know, because the weather was so bad, you are not able to see Kailash at all. But if you can see on the picture, it is faintly there. And a thought occurred to me. you know, so many of us have come so far. Lord Shiva, why don't you manifest yourself to me? This reminded me of a particular story of a little boy whose teacher told him about the glories of Sri Krishna and of Sri Krishna in Vrindavan. For small children, when the teacher tells you a story, it was 100% true. And the boy really believed that Sri Krishna is in Vrindavan. He dressed up as Sri Krishna. Remember, this is a story. Don't ask me difficult questions. The boy went in search of Sri Krishna. He was going in through every street looking for the Sri Krishna that his teacher had described in Vrindavan. Nowhere he could find. Seeing the innocence and the dexterity, the efforts of the little child, Krishna could not help but had to manifest himself. He manifested himself for the little boy and he showed himself to him and he said, "Come, I will take you back." But the boy was very insistent. "I want you to come and meet my teacher." You know, normally it is because of the teacher, the student is blessed. But I'm giving you a rare example where because of the student, the teacher is blessed. Now the little boy takes Sri Krishna to his school and the boy running excitedly calls the teacher out of the class and says, "You know what, all that you said, as per what you said, I went to Vrindavan, I met Lord Krishna." The teacher could not believe. He said, "Where is Krishna?" He comes out. He is able to see the boy. He is not able to see Krishna. But the boy is able to see Krishna. The teacher is not able to see Krishna. The boy is insisting Krishna is here. You know, the same Krishna that you have described with all earnestness, but the teacher is not able to see. Now, Shri Krishna realizes now he has to manifest himself for the teacher for the sake of the faithfulness of the boy. And this is it. Sometimes, because of the student, the teacher is blessed. My dear friends, I would like to give a very sincere thanks to each of you who have given us a role to be the teacher. Whenever you teach, whenever you study even one verse of the Bhagavad Gita, that verse becomes so special to all of us. So each of us in Param Vedanta have profited from each of you who have given us this opportunity of being able to play the role of the teacher. And I wish to express my thanks to God, to our gurus, to each one of you. Hari Om, Tat Sat. We will conclude this by the chanting of the 18th chapter, verses 54 and 78 by Madhusudan and Mrs. Meenakshi. Over to you, Madhusudan.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Na Shochati Na Kankshati Samas Sarveshu Bhuteshu Madbhaktim Labhate Param.
Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tattvataha tato mam tattvato gnatva vishate tadanantaram.
Sarva karmanyapi sada kurvano madvyapashrayah matprasadadavapnoti shashvatam padamavyayam.
Chetasa sarva karmani mayi sanyasya matparaha buddhi yogamupashritya Macchitta satatam bhava.
Macchitta sarvadurgani matprasadattarishhyasi atha chettvamahankarat na shroshyasi vinangshyasi.
Yadahankaramashritya na yotsya iti manyase mithyaisha vyavasayaste Prakritistvam niyokhyati.
Swabhavajena kaunteya nibaddhasvena karmana kartum nechasi yanmohat karishyasya vashopi tat.
Ishvara sarvabhutanam hruddesherjuna tisthati भ्रामयन् सर्वभूतानि यन्त्रारूढानि मायया
तमेव शरणं गच्छ सर्वभावेन भारत तत्प्रसादात् परां शान्तिं स्थानं प्राप्स्यसि शाश्वतम्
इति ते ज्ञानमाख्यातं गुह्याद्गुह्यतरं मया विमृशैतदशेषेण यथेच्छसि तथा कुरु
सर्वगुह्यतमं भूयः शृणु मे परमं वचः इष्टोऽसि मे दृढमिति ततो वक्ष्यामि ते हितम्
मन्मना भव मद्भक्तो मद्याजी मां नमस्कुरु मामे वैष्यसि सत्यन्ते प्रतिजाने प्रियोऽसि मे
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यः मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः
इदं ते नातपस्काय नाभक्ताय कदाचन नाचुशुश्रूषवे वाच्यं न च मां योऽभ्यसूयते
य इमं परमं गुह्यं मद्भक्तेष्वभिधास्यति भक्तिं मयि परां कृत्वा मामे वैष्यत्य संशयः
न च तस्मान्मनुष्येषु कश्चिन्मे प्रियकृत्तमः भविता न च मे तस्मात् अन्यत् प्रियतरो भुवि
अध्येष्यते च य इमं धर्म्यं संवादमावयोः ज्ञानयज्ञेन तेनाहम् इष्टस्यामिति मे मतिः
श्रद्धावाननुसूयश्च शृणुयादपि यो नरः सोऽपि मुक्तः शुभान् लोकान् प्राप्नुयात् पुण्यकर्मणाम्
कच्चिदेतच्छ्रुतं पार्थ त्वयैकाग्रेण चेतसा कच्चिदज्ञानसम्मोहः प्रनष्टस्ते धनञ्जय
अर्जुन उवाच नष्टो मोहः स्मृतिर्लब्धा त्वत्प्रसादान्मयाच्युत स्थितोऽस्मि गतसन्देहः करिष्ये वचनं तव
सञ्जय उवाच इत्यहं वासुदेवस्य पार्थस्य च महात्मनः संवादमिममश्रौषम् अद्भुतं रोमहर्षणम्
व्यासप्रसादाच्छ्रुतवान् एतत् गुह्यमहं परम् योगं योगेश्वरात् कृष्णात् साक्षात् कथयत स्वयम्
राजन् संस्मृत्य संस्मृत्य संवादमिममद्भुतम् केशवार्जुनयोः पुण्यं हृष्यामि च मुहुर्मुहुः
तच्च संस्मृत्य संस्मृत्य रूपमत्यद्भुतं हरे विस्मयो मे महान् राजन् हृष्यामि च पुनः पुनः
यत्र योगेश्वर कृष्णः यत्र पार्थो धनुर्धरः तत्र श्रीर्विजयो भूतिः ध्रुवा नीतिर्मतिर्मम ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे मोक्षसन्न्यासयोगो नाम अष्टादशोऽध्यायः। हरिः ओम् श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्।
Thank you, Meenakshi and Madhu, for a beautiful and memorable chanting, marking the samaropa of this session as well as that of Gita Jayanti celebration 2020. I once again thank you all for your cooperation and participation in this Gita Gnana Yagna. My humble request to all those who have sent their Guru Dakshina, kindly fill in the Google form to enable us to generate your e-receipts. As the year 2020 merges into the history, Param Vedanta team wishes you all a very happy new year in advance. With the dawn of 2021, we are coming back on Friday, 15 January 2021 to commence the 10-week course on Introduction to Upanishads. It will be a new year, new learning, and new journey. Till then, goodbye and namaste to all of you. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om.